Hey there, it is 10:11 a.m. It is August 27th, Tuesday morning, and I got up early this morning. I think I got up around maybe 3-ish or so, and then I went back to bed for a little bit, and then I came back around 6 o'clock in the morning. So I've been having like very strange sleeping patterns, and I will tell you, it really doesn't necessarily have anything to do with the trauma. A lot of it has to do with activity, brain activity coming back into my mind. Okay. I had been doing some experimenting with different sounds of music because I felt as though I was lacking brain activity, brain stimulation, because of my, I found it impossible to have like regular thoughts. And some people would think, well, what do you mean by that? Okay, well, I was put in a situation where my future was questionable. Like, what are these people trying to do to me, right? It makes a person feel very uncomfortable. Okay, so I can't sit here and overplan the future. I find the current moment, the situation of having the stagnicity in my life, it's very dull. And then when I think about the past, everything from my past to me is very disturbing to me at this point. So I'm very careful about dealing with things that I consider to be triggers. Obviously, the people that I grew up around and my family, my ex-family, adoptive family, and whatever, were involved in something that was very sick and based on mind control and on a Nazi experiment or a Nazi-inspired experiment. So, my life right now, it's difficult for me to have pleasant thoughts or even negative thoughts, really, just thoughts in general, because everything to me that was surrounded in my world, to me was very dark. Okay, so that music, I would say just watching the visuals and listening to the music has helped stimulate my brain. Okay, so now it helped me focus. Okay, it helped me focus on certain tasks at hand. Now, I know that people are aware that I'm looking for work, and no, I'm not somebody who is hitting or what do you call it, pounding the pavement with enthusiasm, mainly because I've dealt with racial targeting and I've dealt with something that I should not have dealt with. So it makes me very uncomfortable having to deal with people. And I will tell you, things like Indeed.com caused a lot of mental triggers because I was racially, and so I guess you could call it religiously targeted online, okay, in the past. And so, they do these things to frustrate you. They even have a sense of entitlement to sit here and cause these sort of psychological harm on a person, all because they feel as though they are superior and they want to beat down a person who's basically trying to survive. Now, I did write down some intuitive messages. I write down a lot of like messages, and I think a lot of people know that I'm somebody who's very serious about my work. I am a philosopher, yes, I am. I have developed a way of seeing things based on my experiences and the things that I observe, right? And also, I would feel as though I see and believe that everything that I do in my life, like somehow, to me, deserves being notated and written down so that I can show a certain amount or pattern of the activity that was going on. Like, I'm glad that I made this YouTube channel, right? Because, it started off in 2015, in the month of September in 2015. At that time, I didn't know. I literally was like, kind of like, I was dumbfounded. I was still like tripping on the fact that this employment issue could have spilled out in the street, that I was dealing with the sort of psychological and financial harassment that I was dealing with, and the mobbings at work and everything else. All of this stuff was like very puzzling to me, and I didn't understand like what is the source of this. I suspected my family and all this other stuff, but I had no idea about the Prince Alamehu, cloning, yeah, none of that. Now I knew that sort of stuff existed, but and I have read into so many different topics, okay, because I have a very open mind, and I'm starting to understand that now that I realize the Prince Alamehu's CV Berganza connection, okay, and understanding how the cloning process works, I'm starting to understand why I was a kid at the age of 6 years old who had interest that most 6-year-old kids do not have. Okay, obviously, I mean, I would say even before 6 years old, I had an interest in spirituality from the very get go. Like, I always felt a presence there. Always. Always. And knew to respect it, fear it, whatever you want to call it. I mean, I always knew it was there. Okay. And I also knew that, I also was aware on some level. Okay. Now, what I mean by aware on some level, there's no way in the world at 6 years old I could understood that, uh, in my past life, that I was dealing with something similar. Okay, I had no idea or recollection of my previous life, but what I did have is some sort of inherent, uh, built-in interest in things like religion, things like race. I found that the subject of Nazis, and the Holocaust very interesting, as a young child. You know what I mean? And the reason why is because these things were very important. These issues were very important in my past life, as well as the creation of my existence today. Because this is a Nazi, it was based on a Nazi experiment, right? So now I have literally been like going to bed at night and seriously, thinking about all the interesting things that I have studied throughout the years and putting it together. And I want to be fair when I draw my conclusions on certain issues, okay? And it's not something that I feel is like a major rush or anything. It's not even like a matter of life and death. But I do see that there had me for reading, materials and, things that some people would look at as far fetched, okay? Or boring or like unnecessary or whatever, okay. And I've always had interests like um, that were outside the box, right? And then I would sit there and kind of shrug my shoulders and think, oh, that's just food for thought. You know what I mean? It's interesting to hear other people's sides. I never really formulated an opinion one or another. It was just interesting to know that people had different opinions on different subject matters, right? And I would read, opposing views on certain issues. And once again, I would always just kind of shrug my shoulders and think, okay, that's just food for thought. But it's interesting. I always found people's view and how they formulate their opinions very interesting, but it just never really hit home with me. But now I'm realizing, okay, I was adopted, and I'm understanding and putting things together that have things to do with what I remember hearing at home, the things I experienced on the playground, and understanding who my dad was to the general public, and what had been happening to my father. You know what I mean? My father was a very prideful person. Like, I'm someone like that too. And we're the kind of people, we'd rather just deal with our own problems. We're not going to try to share that with our family members. Because deep down inside, inherently, we must know that most people in our family really didn't support us, okay? They really didn't, okay? They were very mind controlled. But, my father was not the kind of person that would sit here and try to tell us that he was dealing with issues at work. My father always enjoyed his work. He always said that his work was fun. And then, at a certain point, people started to turn on him, right? And so, I now realize that these people that smiled in my face when I was younger were very, very mind controlled. Okay. And it's very shocking to me. Now, I had written down some notes, messages that have come down into my mind, like, through the, downloading process. And I did talk about, I think a lot of people know that I am not somebody who promotes religion. You know what I mean? Like, I don't promote religion, but I feel as though, because I'm a magical person, okay, I'm an occultist. I've always been an occultist, okay, and this is, some people say they know this is who they are. They're like, it's in my DNA. They say it because it's kind of an expression. When I say it's in my DNA, I really do mean it. It is in my DNA. Okay, I am an Egyptian, and I see this, okay? And, I've always, since I was a kid, gravitated towards mysticism, the occult, or whatever. I do know that in my past life, I inspired the New Thought movement, which I didn't get any credit for. Okay, and I do see that, you know, um, when I think about sharing spiritual information, this is something that I find extremely gratifying. I love teaching people stuff, and it's unfortunate that I feel as though all my life that I have dealt with, and this, please do not look at this as being arrogant. This is the truth, okay? That I have always had to deal with people who were ignorant and extremely arrogant, and very bullying, and condescending, when it came to interacting with me. And I have never tried to prevent any religion. I've never bucked up against any religion or told people to leave Christianity. But like I said, I don't want to dig all that up right now. But I do think that by practicing or teaching people how to invoke magical energy through the sources that were given to us by the Creator. Okay, so like yesterday I did a video or demonstration on how to do a very, very basic candle spell using things like olive oil and bay leaves or basil leaves or whatever to purify energy. Okay, I do believe that these things were given to us by the gods or God or however you want, the creator or whatever. Okay, not only do they nourish our bodies, but they are good for spiritual purposes as well. And this is what I choose to stick with. Now, I did create a video called The Gods because, I'm somebody who does believe, and I do know, okay, based on history, that everybody, every nation we all came from had our own spiritual beliefs at one time, okay? And I know that Christianity came in and, just like in the situation of me where people were basically forcing a religion on me, they would come and they would, take the culture, destroy people's culture, and force this particular religion on people. And, I acknowledge that. Okay, but I also understood that I had a right in this country to practice whatever religion I want to. Like I said, Anton LaVey, I do believe he was a very misunderstood person, and I will be doing a video on him sometime in the future. But he was somebody who created the Church of Satan, and he did not have to deal with any of the sort of abuse that I'm dealing with. Okay, hello, Church of Satan. And I'm not saying that he deserved to have any abuse, okay, but he was somebody who was able to conduct his business, preach his philosophy, and not have to deal with people socially excluding him and so on and so forth. So I deal with a lot of racism, okay, and this is what it is. That's the main point. The main point of it, okay, is the racism. And then they use religion as an excuse to justify it. But to be safe, I appreciate the what do you call it, the gods of different cultures, and of course I've read about them. I am not what you call somebody who is so like deep entrenched in any of that stuff, but I'm aware of it. But now that I'm a clone, I do have to sit here and think, my goodness, you know what I mean? What does that mean now? It doesn't have things now. Now that my eyes are open, it's like things have a completely different meaning. I am not looking at things at just like, oh, that's food for thought. No, this is like a puzzle. Things got thrown down around, okay. And like I said, whether things like Egypt. Egypt was here in America because I know that I'm going to bring that up later, okay. Or there was whatever the case is. However history really did happen, or what other histories got eliminated from the school system, or whatever. You know what I mean? I respect the belief systems of other people. And, I'm basically focusing on the blessed objects that we do have on the earth to utilize them for empowerment. And that's it. That's all I choose to focus on. Okay, I'm not going to sit here and say you can pray to your own deity, whatever deity you want to. Okay, because when you're dealing with invoking energy, like from the sun energy, and transferring that information, well, not information, but that energy, right? It is just look at it as an energy transfer. It is not, and you're not. It's not disrespecting Jesus. It's not disrespecting whatever religion. It is just simply energy. And if you don't like what I'm doing, that's fine. You don't have to watch it. But at the same time, you don't have the right to sit here and block that. I have the right to practice my religious belief my spiritual beliefs or whatever. The next message that I have is, oh, okay. Now, the message I wrote down was, what defines success? Now, what defines success is something that steps out of the ordinary, something that, is accomplished sometimes by different means, not necessarily the orthodox matter or way of doing it. Sometimes it's a way of innovation or changing something or managing to do something in a more efficient manner. Whatever the case is, that's to me what defines success. Okay, meaning like you select a certain method, your method becomes successful, and that sort of success is defined only by the individual themselves. Okay, like somebody, yeah, I hear people talking about things that they've accomplished, and that's great, that's a personal accomplishment, but at the end of the day, I'm happy for them. Okay, but who does that really matter to? It matters to them. All right, so they're the only ones who can define what successful is. Right now, I had mentioned yesterday that I am looking for work, okay, and I'm doing the best I can. I don't like to rely on Indeed.com, but I have to use as many resources as I possibly can because these people knocked me down. These people knocked me down to the point of where I was going to lose sense of direction. You know what I mean? I don't want to go into that too deeply, but I do know that people realize that I am a philosopher and I'm somebody who likes to gather information, meaning like, I study people. I study people and I study situations. And throughout my life, I myself have studied myself, okay, and I have made like formulated, opinions on goodness certain methods that I'm doing, okay. Now I've never like introduced my ideas to the public because I'm somebody who's not political, okay. But I obviously see that I was put in a situation going to growing up where I was bullied. So a lot of things I had to do in my life, I was a late starter because of me having to leave school because I didn't fit in and all these other nightmares I really want to forget about. But of course, I had evil people coming back to just bring all that stuff up. Okay, I had people who just wanted to throw all of my darkness, all the sadness, all of that drama into my face, right? Knowing good and well they started the problem, right? But it was funny for them to rub that in my face. So that was my setback growing up in life. Okay, so then I need to figure out how can I get in. Okay, now mind you, I do realize that my employment has been manipulated, but at the same time, I have been able to exercise my skill and be able to thrive in the workplace, so much so that I have caused people to bully me in the workplace. And I've known that, people would do the pop quizzes from hell. I believe that's what is that guy? Activism of care. He coined that term, but that's basically what it was. So I've dealt with a lot of snide remarks, people who fucking hated me, people who wanted to belittle me because of them stomping me out when I was a child, and then when I had the nerve to stand back up to try to start over again, they got frustrated with me because I proved them wrong, and then they wanted to abuse me for it. Okay, so this is what happens when you're born in the cloning process. Okay, somehow people feel entitled to make you some sort of punching bag. Okay, and then I got really tired of that. Mind you, I'm getting off the subject. So, what defines success is, in my life, at this point, I am choosing to make my life a part of my life experience, experiment, right? About career changes and people who are of an older age. Now, like I said, my methods of having to work in my life has always had to do the alternative path because I had a past that, I'm starting to understand was very tragic. Okay, and I've always did the best I could to take care of myself, meaning like keep a roof over my head and try to pay my own way. I've never tried to take the easy way out, and try to hook up with a guy who could take care of my bills to put myself in a more abusive situation. Okay, so right now my experiment is on late life career changes, and what I'm saying is, okay, obviously I've had the same run of the mill, and I'm not belittling that, but I don't even want to bring in management, okay? when I'm talking about my skill set. I'm talking about bookkeeping. I'm talking about office administration. And when I say that, I'm talking about, the copier, the reception work, the Microsoft Excel, blah, 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 blah. All of that stuff, those packages that's going to be on a resume. I don't need to talk about it. That's what I've been doing for the last 27 years. 27 years, okay? But I also do know that I've acquired some more skills. Now, the thing is that when I left BT Trucking, I decided, okay, I need to figure out what I was going to do. And I do believe that I shared this on several of my videos at the time, that I was taking some courses on writing content, right? Because, and I say this with all humility, because I know everything that I do with these perps, they tend to accuse me of acting as if I know it all. I humbly look into the subject of marketing of all forms, knowing that I am not a know-it-all. Okay, but there are certain things that I'm able to do, and what I do not know, I'm able to be upfront about that. So I paid for a course on learning how to write content. Like, you can have your ideas, but what format needs to be created to do that? What makes the most impact? Okay, this is information that I feel I needed to know, right? And so, because I am somebody who constantly has to upgrade their skills or try to do this, mainly because I do not have a 4-year degree, and this is something that they held against me, knowing good and well that caused all kinds of obstacles in every step of my life. Okay, now I'm doing the best I can. Now, during the course of me taking this online course or whatever, which I do believe this online method is very good. I like their teaching methods. Okay, now I decided to. I was trying to figure out what I was going to do. My unemployment ended. Okay, I was like extremely stressed out. I knew that their little game of let's keep playing with Maria was going to last for God knows how long. So how do you stay motivated to even care? See, this is what I'm talking about these people who get in my way and think it's okay for them to mess with me. Okay, so I'm like, okay, I don't know what I'm doing. And then I kept thinking, okay, I focused on the Swan Song Manifesto. I figured, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and take my skill set now and go ahead and work with the Swan Song Manifesto, and I will pick it up at some other time when I feel as though I have the encouragement to continue to do so. Because I will tell you, I am not going to sit here and waste my time on something knowing that these people are just playing their fucking peekaboo game. I don't need to deal with it. You know what I mean? So I'm presenting my skill set now and hoping, and this is how I learned throughout my entire life, okay, because of coping and dealing with the perp game. The let's hire her, let's fire her, let's do this, let's do that type stuff. So I think a lot of people know that most of my training has become the training that I have or lessons that I've gotten were online, correspondence, whatever. Okay, so when it comes to me learning, and I believe I think most people are hands-on. So in these, why I like these courses is because you can incorporate what you're learning through the lessons into your work. So like, for example, when I was learning how to do bookkeeping, okay, I remember learning that stuff in high school, but when I started doing online courses, let's just say, for example, something new comes up, a new subject comes up, and I would volunteer and ask, hey, can I do that at work, so that I could learn as I'm studying the subject, so that I could have the book learning as well as hands-on. And see, what I'm taking these, and what I've done with this is I'm like realizing, okay, that this could be something done for a lot of people. It could be done and replace the school system. What I'm saying is, why I say this is because I am not in any way bashed in college, because I remember wanting to be a CPA. Okay, because I really enjoyed learning about accounting, so I wanted to be a CPA. And I know that's something that you'd have to do, but of course I was being messed with. I was dealing with people messing with my employment. I never felt like any sort of point in continuing doing anything when I had to sit here and deal with that kind of red tape. Okay, it's there's no encouragement. It's all a nightmare. Okay, to have to deal with that. So I honestly don't think that's why sometimes I look at some people who pursue college and they got their degree and they're not being able to get step into the employment sector. I would, and they are really very disappointed by that because it's time and money that they wasted. And I'm going to tell you right now, it frustrates me because when people are sitting here dancing in my face, knowing that they've created these blocks in my past, right? And I'm trying to just take care of myself, like put a roof over my head, okay? And they constantly create these problems, okay? But when it comes to experimenting, yeah, I mean, I do believe that if the school system was changed, okay, and I am not in any way saying this is how it has to be, okay, but I do understand because here's the thing, okay. I talk to a lot of people who go through college, and I am not bashing college. Like I said, I wanted to get to be a CPA, okay, but here's my, you know, my circumstance, you know what happened to me in my past, okay. So I'm saying is that when you think about the school system and some of the lessons that I believe are repetitive, looking back on high school, how many years did I diagram a sentence? That's like 4 years of diagramming a sentence when in reality, we were diagramming sentences in the 8th grade. Some of this stuff is repetitive stuff that constantly gets told in the school system. I don't know why they do it. I have no idea. But there's definitely a more efficient way of learning. There's more of an efficient way of learning a skill so that you can step into the workforce instead of using, I mean, taking so much time to acquire this so-called knowledge that seems either to be going to waste or people are forgetting it. Either way, it seems like you're forgetting it, or it's not being put into everyday practice. You know what I mean? It just seems like if you want to learn how to do accounting, then go and learn that accounting skill. Okay, if other skill sets are required, like for example, like a Microsoft Packet or something, why not reduce it to these courses instead of having to go through the college thing? Okay, I'm not saying that. I do understand like there's certain certifications that need to be received, like for example, in order to be a lawyer, right? I have to have a license. So I also want to talk about what some people are going to be saying or accusing me of, because I get accused of a lot of stuff because I'm a smart black woman. They want to put words into my mouth. They're like practically drooling to do that. Like, oh, you think just because you brought up the issue of human trafficking, blah blah blah, you know something about laws? No, well, yeah, okay, I do know a little bit about laws. Okay, I think I do. Okay, but I am not trying to get work into a law office because of that reason or trying to even be a lawyer. I'm saying I'm picking industries, firms, whatever, or things that I believe are going to I can incorporate into my work-life balance or coincides with something that I'm passionate about. Yes, I do respect laws. Okay, so guess what? Since I'm trying to look for work, I guess I'm going to hit them up, right? And I do think that, combining my administrative skills and working with content and presenting that to other companies is a reasonable thing to offer. Especially since I'm willing to, I'd like to go and finish my writing courses because I would like to be able to improve my skills on certain things. So that's not an unreasonable thing to do. I'm basically saying that I'm using this time right now to experiment. And if these things work, like for example, when it comes to writing or doing content or something like that, incorporating this as I'm going along, then this information will be shared with people because it's important to know. This could save people time and money. Anyway, um, yeah, okay, yeah. And so then the experiment would be is learning methods versus the brick and mortar traditional method. That would be what I'm saying is that, because um, and when I say this, I am in no way bashing college. Okay, I'm basically saying for people such as myself who have been targeted individuals, who have been victims of human trafficking, who have had their life derailed because of outside forces, what other learning methods can they have, especially in they are late in life? What could be something that could elevate or excavate or escalate? Okay, them being able to transfer their skill into one thing and evolving it into another. Okay, like if you work in administration, then you're obviously going to be working with programs like Microsoft Word. You're obviously going to be working with PowerPoint. Okay, but if you're somebody who also has like an interest in being able to broaden those sort of career or those sort of experiences, okay, being able to be more job marketable. What other methods can you do, especially if you're late in life? So also study of training. Oh yeah, okay. Now I do think that, like for example, when it comes to back in the 90s, I know there was like this controversy as to what is the best method of being able to like advance yourself. Okay, now we know that there's certain things called job manipulation. Unfortunately, let's just say for example there was no such thing as job manipulation, so that people really could focus on this issue. Okay, now there was things like, of course, college, right? And there were things like trade schools. Okay. Now, I personally think now when you go to college or you're learning things from a college textbook, a lot of times you're learning it in theory. Okay, like you're learning the mechanics of how accounting works. Okay. But in a lot of trade schools, they incorporate the training along with the theory. Okay. And in my case, what I did when I was learning accounting, I incorporated my training. I understood and I read the theory and I took the theory and I put it into incorporated. I incorporated what I was learning as I went along. And this is what I plan on doing or hopefully doing as I move into or getting the opportunity to use my talents and skills for writing content or doing some sort of copy work. If I'm required to do so. Like I said, I have different skill sets, but I don't mind doing, creative work. And that would be kind of fun for me, mainly because, I know in the past I've had ideas that I've wanted to bring to fruition, meaning because I'm somebody, I sit here and just like come up with creative ideas all the time. I can literally make something out of nothing. Okay, look at food magic. I can make something out of nothing. Okay, it's I do believe that I have the talent and I do have the drive. Okay, but what also needs to be there is the intrigue, and the desire and the passion for learning. And in this case, I understand that I don't know everything about marketing. I never said that I did. Okay, or even copy and content writing. I just know that I'm able to write scripts. I know that when it comes to video editing, I would say because I deal with depression, I'm going to be, I don't think that I'm the best narrator because I can sometimes hear my voice dipping is my mood changes. My mood changes mainly because, I'm like, oh, I'm in this program, and it's like, it's hard for me to come with like, happy intro lines or whatever. But what my thing is on YouTube, people know me as being a targeted individual, so I don't have to rely on having to be bubbly all the time. But can I write scripts? Yes. Can I write plays? Yes. Can I do certain things? Yes, I can. Now I need to understand format. I need to understand format. How do these things get formulated? How do they get put together? You know what I mean? What are the new programs that are being used instead of, are Microsoft programs being used or is there something else? You know what I mean? And these are the things that I'm hoping to incorporate. You know what I mean? So, and I don't feel it's like I should be ashamed of that or somebody making fun of from them, preventing me from growth when I was younger and then watching me struggle as an adult. It's pretty goddamn sick. Now, also, I wanted to talk about from goody two shoes to juvenile delinquent. Like, what the hell? Okay, now, when I was growing up, and I don't like talking about this, but now I realize what happened. I knew that I was a bit of bully, being bullied a lot, okay? But overall, when you really think about this situation, okay, I guess I was kind of a goody two shoes. Okay, I was a goody two shoes. I was somebody who obviously cared about adult subjects. I remember wanting to do the right thing all the time. I remember like I was a kid who always spoiled everybody's fun when we were stealing like fruit from fruit trees. Like we would go and take fruit off of like, vines that were dangling from the brick wall that we were walking by. Everybody was doing it, right? And then I would do it and then I'd start feeling guilty. You know what I mean? Oh, we shouldn't have done that. And they'd be looking at me like, God, would you get rid of her? Okay. I was a person who had an interest in studying the Bible because I wanted to have an understanding of spirituality. Truly. Okay? My parents didn't have to beat it over my head. They didn't have to force me into it. Nobody had to do that. I was a good kid. I'm not saying I never did anything wrong. I'm not saying I never did anything mischievous. I'm not saying I was, perfect. I will never say that. Okay? But I was a good kid. But somehow in the minds of people, I became a juvenile delinquent. And that's why I say what? Because when you're somebody who's bullied a lot, you don't want to be around the people that are bullying you, especially when you feel like you're dealing with something undescribable. Like I was feeling like, when I was younger, before I realized that I was this clone person, right? I felt as though what was going on in high school was unbearable. It was unbearable. Nobody should have to deal with that. Nobody should sit here and have to have themselves like questioned, or somebody who feels like they're being interrogated or bullied all the time. And I also wonder, going back, this issue of, being targeted. Looking back now, I know that my sister Tiny was a part of my targeting, and I remember telling her what was going on in school. I remember that because I had a teacher. He was an older man. His name was Mr. Owens, I believe, and they went to the same church. Tanya and Mr. Owens went to the same church. And of course, I was starting to ditch school because I couldn't stand it there anymore. Okay, I couldn't take it anymore. See, so this is how the goody two-shoes becomes the juvenile delinquent because of bullying. And it's not that this person, me, was a bad person, because I'll tell you what, I was so nerdy, I would ditch school so I could go to the library. That's how nerdy I was. Okay. Ooh, rebel, right? Okay, but still. Okay. I was a goody two shoes. Right? And I became a juvenile delinquent in the eyes of people who couldn't understand. Why is it that she doesn't want to be at school? Because they were the ones who bullied me. That's why. They want you to take it. They want you to feel the full impact of hell. Is what they wanted me to do. And obviously, no one in their right mind can put up with that. Okay? So this is how the goody two-shoes, me, little miss, I'm trying to be on the religious path. Little miss, I feel guilty every time, we steal fruit from, one of our neighbor's trees. I'm the one who feels bad every time I do something wrong. Okay? And I became an enemy. That's absurd. Right? But this is the story. So, I had a hard life growing up. Okay? Because of this program. Okay? And I am somebody who is very proud, meaning like, not proud in an arrogant way, but I'm somebody who feels as though, I am somebody who wants to pick himself up instead of exploiting somebody like people exploited me. Okay? I have morals. I have characters. No, I was not a juvenile delinquent. I was a goody two-shoes that was being bullied by very dark people. Now, the next message I got is something about my last two YouTube videos. Yeah, I did release Oodles and Boodles of Noodles, which I am somebody who is a big food magic enthusiast, okay? And what I was hoping to do when I created that is I was hoping on Patreon as well as uploading it on Kobe, is that, I realized I was associated directly with these celebrities, right? Now, mind you, I didn't realize that the celebrities were targeting me because it was a hate crime. Okay, I figured, okay, they were part of this, but, and then I realized the whole religious thing and all this other stuff, okay? But regardless, okay, whether I deal with celebrities or not, which I'm not, but, the thing is that when it comes to food magic, it's something that I think is really fun, okay? And I encourage it. Now, I know that because of me being somebody who values being self-taught and somebody who struggled with the school system, they decided to block me from YouTube as if I was some sort of ignorant person. You know what I mean? No, I'm not an ignorant person. I'm a very well-informed person. Now, like I said, now that I'm thinking about all these things that I've been reading, okay, and like I said, I'm somebody who reads and collects information, even if it's an opposing view. Okay, now I'm at a point where I'm like, okay, well, I need to start understanding, like, how all these things come together and formulating an opinion. Okay, but it's not really that important. It doesn't matter if Egypt was here in the United States or if there. At least I don't see where that's really that important, except for if somebody wanted to get territorial or something, and I don't feel that way. Okay, my main goal right now is just to get to through hell, and then once it's time for my life to be done, to move on to heaven. That's it. And I'm just trying to make my transition as easy as I possibly can, to like lessen the impact of this filthy hellhole. That's it. Okay. But yeah, I would say that I am somebody who is self-taught, meaning like, and I'm somebody who is a survivor of human trafficking and abuse. Um, the next message is that, oh yeah, me and my father are off the standardization testing charts, meaning like, I know a lot of this argument got started. Well, it wasn't really started. It was there from the get go. But I know there was a lot of bullying because there was the over there at passive aggressive stupidity. They were talking about debating, whether I should be looked upon as somebody who is creative or analytical or whatever. Me and my father are off the standardization testing charts, meaning like, we do have multiple talents. We do have multiple gifts that it seems like it defies logic or something to a lot of people why they had some sort of struggle with that. But the reality was that was because of racism. They wanted to create the idea that because I didn't go to their 4-year colleges and because I was not able to tolerate their abuse, that somehow I was a stupid person. That's not true. And I think most people know that. But me and my father are analytical and we are also creative. We are several different things, okay? And we are very multi talented. And I understand when it comes to the work uh, environment, generally they don't really care about somebody who thinks. They just want somebody who does. You know what I mean? And see, this is another reason why I find it very frustrating when it comes to the 9 to 5. You know what I mean? I do think the 9 to 5 should be restructured. Which is something that I had talked about when I first realized that I was being targeted. How many employers fail to keep morale up, and then people, selecting families and what do you call it, kingdom spouses, arranging jobs for political reasons, or jealous girls trying to compete, or just whatever reason, these mismatches of people not being able to truly apply their skills and their talents into their work does create a problem when it comes to work-life balance. And I think this is what most people are trying to do. You know what I mean? It makes sense to strive that. It makes sense for the work system, or the work. I'm gonna call it the work system. Meaning like, you're applying for a job, you get the job, you're now working at the job, and now there is a relationship that is formulated, and you're trying to, uh, contribute and making sure that you get evaluated fairly. Okay, and the sad part was that this completely blew me away when I realized what was going on over at my job, Murray Family Farms, because my talent is something that I respect, and I know that other people acknowledge it, but they will fail to tell you that, right? Because what they fear is that you're going to gain some sort of self-confidence and want more, and perhaps maybe a position of power. I will never want to step into any position of power, not like that. Okay. What I do like doing is I do like sharing my information, my spiritual knowledge. I do enjoy that. I do love working on printed materials that I find interesting. Okay, I do like the idea of creating advertisements. Do I need help in those directions? Can I fine tune it? Absolutely. That's one of the reasons why I've decided to take that course. Okay, I don't know everything, but it would be nice to work with people who do. See, because I've always wanted to collaborate and share ideas. Brainstorming and having an idea come to fruition is very cool. Okay, now, oh, I wanted to talk about the mind control puppets, the Nazi. Oh yeah, okay, yeah. I wrote this down. I'm reading it from what I wrote down last night. Okay, Nazi public front is amazing. Okay, mind controlled individuals, dual allegiance to Hitler, acts shocked when subjects come up. Okay, so what I was thinking was, okay, and some of these celebrities, right? Um, what bothered me so much, okay, because obviously I think a lot of people know that I grew up listening to music. I am a lover of music. Love music. I cannot, my day revolves around music. Okay, and I believe that there is a music or a certain sound for just about every mood. And there are times where I feel extremely nostalgic towards my childhood, right? And I do know that there were some, celebrities who got involved in this. But what is interesting about it, and everyone knows that I'm somebody who researches human behavior. It's one of my specialties, right? Is the what I call the Nazi public front, and why do I call it amazing? Is because it's a great example of the duality of the human mind when it comes to this topic of racism, and them not being able to understand what it really means. And yet they feel as though they're not racist because they'll make one statement, but then they'll actually do something different. For example, there's actually a few, okay, a few of these celebrities that I myself would have the ability and the opportunity to talk to, at least through, you know, social media. And, they'll make statements about how, it's shocking, racism is shocking, and how, they might have integrated their audiences, or maybe they, whatever. So you don't really think these people could possibly be racist anyway. It just never really hits you, right? But then you find out behind the scenes that they are in some sort of group that's associated with like white nationalism, or they're the people who try to prevent you from working because they have some sort of racist bias against you. But what I'm saying is that this is a great example of either, okay, a duality of their mind, meaning they consider themselves to be not racist. Why do they consider themselves? Because they allowed black people to sit and watch their concert, because they might have one who plays in their band. Okay, or maybe they did something else. Okay, but meanwhile, they are doing what they can to make sure people like my dad died, and then also make sure that people like me stay out of the workplace. Okay, duality of mind. Same thing with the Collins family. Okay, same thing. It's very interesting, and I know like when you talk about, or there's certain races, white people in the public forum, they act like they're shocked when they see movies or subject matters that deal with racism. Like, oh, that's terrible, but then they'll work behind the scenes to do something similar. See, I will tell you, my study of human behavior is really deep. Okay, and unfortunately, because I've been in a box my entire life, okay, my my world is filled with colorful interest and intrigue, right? And unfortunately, I am never able to meet people to discuss these things. Like I wanted to be able to have like this eclectic group of people that were just like stimulating minds, like maybe talk to somebody who practices psychology and have like discussions, work on projects together. I wanted those sort of things in my life. Why? Because I know a lot of stuff. And whether people want to acknowledge that or not, because it bruises a lot of people's ego, especially the people who came after me. The people who came after me, confident, arrogant, knowing good and well that they really didn't know what they were talking about. But still, okay. And this is not me bragging by any means, but it's me basically showing that throughout my life, through me being a part of experiment, little did they know I was experimenting myself. I was also observing my unique situations, and I was also coming up with conclusions on human behavior. Okay, and people such as myself, and comparing these methods, like, learning methods. I mean, everything that I do in my life, okay, is a study, so much so that I build a philosophy on it. That's my right, right? But I will tell you, I'm a brainy person, and I choose to be around people who are extremely stimulating, and this is what I wanted all my life, and I've never had that. Because I've been stuck around people who were set to hate me. Also, my dad, and I had mentioned this before, but my dad in the 1970s was basically the equivalent to me. Okay, he was watched, he was followed, he had some of his people who admired him. Okay, and there were a lot of people who envied him. Okay, now I know when I dealt with this group, they would never want to acknowledge the things that I contribute. They never wanted to acknowledge any of the things I could do. Like I said, this was based on a knowledge experiment. But I remember when I first worked at Murray Family Farms, I was really upset with Steve Murray because, and they try to act like it's arrogance. It is not arrogance. It's not arrogance. Okay. They were 2 months or 3 behind in their books, okay, when I first got into the company. And I brought their books up to date in order for them to be evaluated by the CPA in a very short period of time. I think it was like 2 or 3 weeks, something like that. And I did it all by myself. Okay, I did a lot of shit over at Murray Family Farms, and I remember we had this like party, and you know what he did? He completely ignored everything that I contributed on purpose. Because see, their goal in this experiment was to sit here and try to inflict mental harm on an individual. That was the start of it. This is when I realized that Steve Murray was starting. He was very crooked, but I know that my dad had to put up with a lot of stuff. Okay, and like I said, when I started to think about what really happened in this and what people were willing to allow me to carry the burden of what they wanted me to believe that it was my fault, and they wanted other people to believe that it was their fault, my fault. You know what I mean? I grew up among evil. Okay. The Swan Song Manifesto is still in effect. Okay. Next month I will be releasing my fourth quarter newsletter. And yes, I am taking my Swan Song Manifesto very seriously. And it's basically, me talking about, the change of season. I am going to be talking about, my transitions on, trying to get back into the workforce, my struggles of having to deal with what happened with me when it came to, the workplace mobbing and the community harassment, picking up my life, little news about me. Also, yeah, I did mention yesterday that there has been people uploading my videos on their channel. Now, this particular group of people, they are very, very stubborn because what they're trying to do is make me focus on the 9 to 5. And fine, I don't have a choice. I don't have a choice. Is it deliberate? It's always abusive. So this group of people, some of them, a lot of these people are dead, right? Because this is one of their collaborated group type things. We all know it blew up in their face, right? But I do know that I had made an announcement yesterday that I am wanting to increase viewership on my channel because, I have mojo items that I have made, right? And I'd like to give them away. And I think the goal of 1,500 viewers on my channel for October is rather small. Okay, but I do remember my first YouTube video, channel, when back when I did Dark Desert Moon back in 2008. I mean, I made a lot of subscribers like within weeks. Okay, and then there was this hate campaign about me, the Christian scare, the bullying, the terrorism that took place, the campaign smears, the nightmare happened. Okay, and now my videos are being uploaded on one video thing and being distributed, whatever. Okay, I have been shunned, shadow banned, whatever. And through it all, my ex-boyfriend, my son's father, was a part of it. Through people, what do you call it? Insisting that I was married to this person because they don't understand what the definition of marriage is. See, when a person such as myself is intelligent, and this is not me bragging, I'm telling you the truth, okay? I am an African American woman, a black woman, whatever you want to call it, anyway, right? Whatever, or Egyptian woman, whatever you want to call it, okay? And I'm dealing with racially biased people, okay? And when you're white, in their mind, you're right, no matter what. Okay, so it doesn't matter whether or not Bruce was even really a Jehovah's Witness. None of that matters. Okay, but what did matter was he was a white guy. That's all that mattered. Because I will tell you, Bruce did not have any right, nor did he deserve to have any sort of part of my life. Okay, and it angers me to no end that something like this happened and the duration of time that went by. You know what I mean? I'm just telling you, it's like, how in the world do people think that I deserve that? You know what I mean? Because of mind control, because of white bias, because of whatever. I will tell you, he has contributed nothing, but has caused everything. He's caused nothing but problems. Okay? The next message, yeah, I've been in contact with, I'm making a little bit of a dent in it, my rework search, okay? And, of course, you're going to deal with rejection, and I understand that, okay? What I'm looking for is working for a company that's going to be for my highest good. meaning like, and vice versa. There has to be chemistry there. And I get tired of dealing with, the bullying, the belittling. And when it came to lawyers or lawyers in general, what was in this community, it baffles me. But I understand there were forces that were working that were beyond their control. But at the same time, it's like, you don't ever want to be a victim of this program. That's all I want to say. You don't ever want to be a victim of this program because you will lose your faith in people. You will certainly lose your faith in people. Okay, my last message here is, okay, yeah, and that's something I talked about earlier. I wrote down just food for thought. Like, when I talk about the indigenous Africans and the Sedona, Arizona, with the the Egyptian stones and all this other stuff. There's been talk about, throughout the years I've read, people talking and expressing their views on, the possibility of Africans being here and the other races that were possibly spawned from the African people or the black peoples. And then the creation of destiny swaps, meaning like, taking away the power of black people and putting them in submission or subordinate positions or whatever. And so as I read this in the past, like I said, growing up, I used to hear stories about, the Egyptians and what they did and all this other stuff. And the whole thing about, Egyptians were being ripped off because nobody portrayed them correctly and blah, 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 blah. I would go in one ear and out the other. And yes, it was food for thought back then. But now I'm starting to look at things differently. I'm like, okay, wait a second. You know what I mean? Now, like I said, it doesn't matter anything to me because I've never been a political person. I have not once ever sat here and tried to overthrow white people. I've never done any of that. Okay, but white people were doing everything they could to overthrow me. Trust me on that. Okay? And I consider myself a very peaceful person. I do not want to be a part of like the worldly system, meaning like, I've never sat here and tried to be a part of like politics or or any of that sort of stuff. Okay, I'm the reason why people were fixated on me when it came to my views and stuff is because people were picking on me. Okay. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and get on the rest of that day. And I hope you enjoyed this video. And I do hope that you will like my video and also subscribe to my channel. It's been very rough with my journey with dealing with all of this. And it amazes me, like, how someone could actually do something like this. But anyway, I have got things to do, and I know that you do too. So I will be back at some other time. Take care. Bye-bye.